All right, so let me pull our special guest up to the stage. Hold on. How do I?
Holy shit.
All right. So this guy, I've had like. Here, hold on 1 second. Actually, let me take that. That's my 7-year-old. Hold on.
The little guy's camera shy. That looks like one of those woolly bears or whatever. Just a baby. Just rolling joints. Rolling them up. Both Skittles going in my joint today. What up? That little guy's on one. Take a rest, bud. It's Friday. Got arrested with a
So, all right. So it's like I'll germinate seeds and then I'll put them in. Hold on. Like I'll put them in the soil and then I'll be like, all right, this thing looked like it was going strong, and then I pulled a seed out that, it's like the seed pod had or the seed had cracked open, and two of these little dudes were like half inside, half outside.
Oh,
So then I was like, fuck, are these things eating the seeds as they germinate, which would be an explanation of why like stuff that I popped, like tails came out, I put them in soil, high expectations, and then
yeah. That looks like, and I don't
and
know.
it's a larva of something. Sup,
Yeah.
Rotten? You want to jump on? What I was talking about, but we could also go live later, is the seeds.
Oh, okay.
No, sorry, not you. I was saying that to Rotten, to
Oh,
Travis.
yeah. It
But
looks like
it
it looks like the larva. I don't know if you guys have them out there, but we have this moth, and before it goes into like cocoon stage, it looks like this hairy ass caterpillar, and that looks like the pre-stage to it.
But do they ever live in the soil? I mean, these things look like they're like
Yeah, I guess
not on leaves.
the grub form, yeah, typically like hangs out in the soil. Like there's times around this time of year,
Look
if
at that
I'm
tail.
if I know it's nuts, and I could be wrong, but
That thing is fugly.
yeah, but like all that fuzzy, like I think they'll turn like it'll look almost like there's three sets of colors. There's like black and then like an orange and then another black, but I don't feel like they're that long. It's like a woolly something. That's what it's like, woolly fucking, I don't remember the full name.
And so the other thing, so basically, I like, hold on, we'll show you my technique.
He pooped.
So I basically took, I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
Like those are all my little tiny pots. And I
Yeah.
flooded it so that these things kind of eventually came up to the surface. And I was like, all right, eventually they'll die from drowning. But like 4 days later, they're all still like squirming around.
Huh.
And so then I started taking, every time I see one, I would take my tweezers and just like smush it. But because I basically want to clean those of any little, but they're also like worms in there. So I'm like trying to pull the worms out so they don't die.
Right.
And like I'm trying to save the good stuff. And where'd you
Well,
just
bless your
go?
patience, Peter, because that shit drives me insane trying to pluck out bugs from a teapot.
But yeah, that dude is. And apologies to anyone who was eating breakfast as we.
I'm ready for the show.
Nice. Oh, I meant to clean my bong, but I could do it now. Travis, you want to jump on? We're mostly going to be listening to, what is it, Kelly
Yeah.
tell stories.
Yeah, he should be on any minute now.
All right, so we got a good enough view of this dude. So if anybody who watches this later, maybe Kelly. Kelly, are you a bug expert?
No,
No.
I'm
Are
not.
you a closet entomologist?
Not me. I got a lot of stuff, but not Wayne's.
So I think these dudes have been eating my seeds. But
Oh,
anyway, let
oh,
me my
oh, that
daughter's
is
calling again.
wrong.
I'm gonna let Jeff take over.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We got a really dope show today. I'm super excited. We had Bruce Pearl-Owen on not last week, but the week before, and he kind of opened the floodgates to this topic. And I find it really, really fascinating hearing the stories from some of these old heads that really were present before what we would consider legacy these days. You know, we talk about, you know, legacy in the essence of like, I grew from learning from my dad, who grew learning from his grandpa. Well, a lot of prior to that was dudes like Kelly, yeah, bringing a pretty significant amount of weight over here for us to be able to, you know, play around with some of the seed that was found in that. You know, a lot of this wasn't Sinsemilla. So, you know, everything that came over had seed in it. So aside from the people who were bringing seed back from like Vietnam and Colombia while they were, you know, out in those areas, I mean, even for me personally in the early 2000s, like all the seed I was growing came from stuff that had come over the border. So with that, Kelly, the Honest Smuggler, has joined us to tell his stories. And he had sent me some pictures, and we'll post them up later, of the airplanes he was using. And they
Sure.
looked like Air Force planes
They were.
from back in the day. So, Kelly, why don't you introduce yourself? I know you were on last week, and we were talking about more on the ECS, endocannabinoid system,
Yeah.
and you had presented this application to the immune system, which I still find fascinating, and we'll eventually have you back on to talk more about that.
Okay.
And we will have you elaborate a little bit more on that. But today I am so focused on your story as far as, you know, being the honest smuggler.
Yeah.
Bruce kind of told us a few scenarios where you had to maintain your honesty, and I think that's so
Yeah. I'll be
cool.
explaining that. Yeah. I'll tell you where that came from. Okay. So I was born in Wichita, and as a very small child, my dad started getting jobs all over the country. So I did preschool in Columbus, Ohio, and I did kindergarten in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Okay, so when we moved, I always flew. I was on an airplane, and so back in those days in the 50s, when an airplane engine started, flames shot out, and I always had the window seat, so I could see those flames shoot. And I thought, oh, this is so cool. I'd like to be a pilot someday, maybe. Okay, so we moved all around. Then we went back to Wichita, and then my dad got a job in New Orleans at a Pelican Air Conditioning and Heating. And it's interesting about that company. Okay, so uh, we moved to Gretna, right across the Crescent City connection bridge from New Orleans. The first town that you hit coming off that bridge is where I lived, in Gretna. Okay, so there were some major events as a kid. I came in ninth grade, right? So I went to this junior high school, and I was on the school bus, and I looked at this girl in front of me, and her hair was beautiful. So I walked up, and this all makes sense in a while. So I walk up, I got off first, and I look around, and bam, it was love at first sight. And she's my wife now. Okay, so my dad has a job in New Orleans, right? Okay, so he has a fight with the owner. Okay, so guys that worked with him came and said, he's a made man. This AC company was connected to the Marcello Mafia group. So these guys tell him, look, it's going to be real healthy if you get out of town immediately. So that's what happened. We zipped down in the middle of 10th grade. We fled New Orleans, Gretna in particular, and went to Miami. Okay, Miami was so cool. There was no stupidity. There was no racism. There was no violence, at least not where I moved to. Okay, so like the first or second day of my middle of the 10th grade entry into this Norland high school, I'm on the playing field. I'm just standing there alone. I don't know anybody, you know. And here comes Bruce. Here comes Bruce, and he introduces himself to me. And he's told me later on a podcast that I did with him that what happened there was I had long hair, so he knew I was in the tribe.
Ah,
Okay. Okay. So I was, I don't know what you'd call me, but anyway, I was writing a stream of consciousness poetry one day. I was only like almost 16, was 15. And I realized, now, wait a minute, I'm not those thoughts. I'm the observer. And at that point, this spontaneous enlightenment thing happened with light and bliss and insights into stuff, you know. Okay, so I tell all my friends, because by this time I had a group of friends that started with him and we expanded. You know, I was part of the group. Okay, so I tell everybody about this, and only Bruce was interested. Everybody else was oh yeah, yeah, okay, okay. Uh, but, but Bruce was different experience. He believed me. We studied yoga together. We studied all kinds of occult stuff, you know, ESP, healing, all kinds of stuff, you know. And he was right there, and it seemed like he understood. It seemed like he already understood it, kind of, you know. Okay, kill that. Okay, so he and I are getting together. We right away we got real close, even before this. But at this point, we got really close because nobody else was interested in this stuff. There was this place, Theosophical Society, where they had all these books about this kind of stuff. And he and I went there as the young kids, right? And the librarian was like 90. And he said, "Oh, young people seeking truth." It was kind of hilarious. Okay, so Bruce and I are really tight. We're really close. And we're sharing this spiritual stuff, right? Okay, so he starts selling weed in high school, little, dime bags, even joints, you know. Then he moves up a little bit to pounds, and so I'm not involved with it, you know. I'm just not into it. But the honesty is coming. Okay, so what happened was, as part of this, a part of this experience, I wanted to be eligible to have it again, right? So uh, Bruce wanted it too. So the honesty thing is this. Um, in in yoga, there's this thing called dharma, and for me, dharma meant a lifestyle that you adhere to so that you'll be eligible for this experience of oneness and bliss, and just wonderful experience. It's known as cosmic consciousness or samadhi, satori, whatever. It doesn't matter with the name, but I did figure that's what it was, and Bruce was into it. Okay, so he's moving along, learning stuff, but he's also selling weed. And so then we find out about Timothy Leary, Alan Watts, Alice Huxley. And what they're saying is you don't have to do yoga for decades and decades. In the right set and setting, you can have this experience.
yep.
And that's what happened. And you have a ground. You probably know when you're tripping balls, you know, you have a ground so that you'll feel secure, everything's fine. Even if the hallucinations come, you've got this guy that knows the story, and it's good.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah,
that's,
yeah. There's this in today's we call it a trip sitter.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's funny through my journey with psychedelics, I after about the first or second time, I became very aware of the handful of people that I would be around when I was tripping, like I would, and the space. There are spaces that I'm like, nope, I'm not going. So setting and even your company make a big difference in what you experience and how you experience psychedelics.
Yeah. So he's kind of nonchalant about his experience that he had with LSD. He calls it, yeah, I saw the white light, you know, and it was like next. Okay, the big thing, the way this applies to his company and to his enterprise or empire as King of Pot on the West Coast, um, an outcome of his trip was this idea of philanthropy for the whole world. Some kind of, he wanted to create a good effect globally. Very ambitious, but he was truly inspired. And I already was amazed with him because he was such an expert, and right away he had this experience, you know. So he kept up with yoga and so on. But the key here was his philanthropic impulse. So he moves up the chain of dealing. He gets to where he's selling hundreds of pounds, and then he's selling thousands of pounds. And then he says, "Look, I don't want to be the middle. I want to smuggle. I want to be a smuggler." So that's how he started. His this guy that was part of the Smith brothers. I don't know if you ever heard of the Smith brothers. They were famous in Miami, you know, because they came on set of Jerry Lewis telethon with a sack of $10,000.
Yep.
And by the way, the guy that was the host, he wouldn't give it to the DEA. They came and said, "We need that cash." He said, "No way." Okay. Okay. So Bruce is getting into this, but in the meanwhile, I'm figuring out my dharma. And I'm going to be real frank about this. For me, the dharma, I figured out, okay, what is my biggest crime? What is my biggest sin? And it was lying. When I told a lie, I believed it. I was a great liar. Okay. So at that point, I made the rule for myself, no lies. And that's why they call me the honest smuggler, because I would not lie under any situation. I might not answer a question, but if I gave an answer, it was the truth. Okay, so
I got to ask real quick, how
yeah.
long did that last?
Oh, geez, 20 years. Yeah, 20 years. Yeah, but this experience was worth trying for, you know. It was wonderful, life-changing. And same for Bruce, right? Now, I loved being on his podcast telling this story because people might think, oh, he's just cares just about money, you know, and he doesn't have principles or whatever, you know. But I got to tell about what I know that other people don't know, that he had this spiritual orientation, and it was towards the good of people. Now, as he got big, he gave a lot of money away, millions, you know, but he didn't really, he helped Patch Adams, by the way. He financed the hospital that Patch Adams is at right now. So he did a lot of good stuff. But, and he would tell me, I didn't understand the scope of the company that he had, the smuggling company. And I didn't understand the extreme competence. I thought when he called his brother Craig the dock master, I thought maybe that was hyperbole. It wasn't.
Right.
He really was a dock master. He was the real deal.
Hmm.
Okay, so I come over to see him every once in a while. He's become a smuggler. I really don't know any details, but you know, I come over and he said, "Come in the office." He had this little bitty office. He said, "Listen, I found a dock. It's a barge dock. I can bring in 200,000 pounds at a time." And I thought, no, well, if anybody could do it, it'd be you, Bruce. But I don't know. Sounds pretty hinky to me, because it was in San Francisco Bay, he tells me. And so I think, I don't know. Okay. So he starts up. He starts up and does it. And he's rolling. He's really doing well. And I'm up in Gainesville. I dropped out of college. I was studying physics. And I thought, I don't want to be a scientist. So I just booked. I was staying at a house of his. And he came to see me and we talked this over, you know, and I thought, wow, I can't work. I'm so messed up from this car, and I couldn't. I was so messed up from this car wreck, I couldn't do any legal work, you know. So he said, "Listen, you want to fly some American touristers out to California, to Northern California, and be the courier?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I'll do that." So I did it. But so first, I should say, I didn't want to do any illegal stuff because I would have to lie on my taxes. So it wasn't really 20 years totally, because I did make money. I didn't report it. Okay, so I exaggerate a little bit. Okay, so
Well, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
I don't think lying is not disclosing. Is lying concealing? I don't think so.
Well, I see your point. That's a good point, really. you know. And Bruce likes to say, well, you know, Kelly couldn't lie back in those days, but I can. So this weed was Santa Marta Gold. It was wonderful. And so he had a good friend that was his man out in California. This is before he went out to California. He's still working in Florida. So I go out there, come back, everything's cool. They had sealed the American. I took 3 American Touristers. He had sealed them so well that there was no odor at all, no fragrance at all. So it was really safe. I delivered the 3 American Touristers. I came back. And he said, well, he gave me $1,000. And he said, oh, you want to do it again? I said, oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I want to do it again. Did it again. Right. Okay. So at that point, I still was hesitant to get involved, you know, because well, I didn't want to lie, you know. So if somebody asked me, which he talks in the podcast about how I did that once. I flew back to Florida from California, and I had delivered some pure THC coin packets that we put together out there, or they did. I wasn't part of it really, except I was the connection for it. So I brought it back, and my mom. What happened was there was a hijacked attempt on the flight, and none of us as passengers knew it. So we landed, and the pilot said, "Everybody stay seated." And so my mom and my brother George, who worked for Bruce, they watched the cops go on the plane. They thought, "Oh no, what has Kelly done? Oh God!" So then they see them bring this guy out. The guy got in the cabin and tried to subdue the pilot, and he just beat the shit out of the guy and had him down inside the cabin. That's why we didn't know. He had him held in the cabin, waiting for the cops to come. Okay, so that was good. So that was my, you know, I didn't make any money from that, you know. Right. I still was on this kick of, oh, don't, you know, if you don't disclose, then it's not honest. Okay, so I just am a mess physically. He's let me stay in his house. The redwood magic woodsman starts up. The redwood is delivered to his house where I'm living. Okay, so I decide I can't really do honest work. I'm going to go for dealing. So I tell Bruce, hey, listen, man, I'd like to get into it. And he said, okay. He was a really close friend. He really trusted me because I never lied, right? So I sold a little bit, and then I sold 1,000 pounds. And so when I brought the $250,000 to Bruce, it was like, oh, well, Kel, I guess you can do this. Okay, so I sold weight. I didn't make a ton of money, but I was real lucky. I had good people and good connections, a lot of money. So it went pretty well. But as time went on, I decided I moved to, I lived in Gainesville. And so I always wanted to be a pilot. So I figured, okay, I got this money. I can't do any physical work, but I could take flying lessons. So I do. I take flying lessons and fly a little single engine Cessna. And you know, I actually never got my license, but I flew solo. I was instrument rating, but I just never got the legal license. So I get this idea. I want to smuggle with an airplane. I want to go to Colombia, pick up superior pot, and come back and you know, and sell it and maybe quit at that point.
I mean, that tracks. If I didn't have my license and I knew how to fly, I probably would have done the same thing.
Well, it really counted. It really counted because the first step in me doing this was now this is a cool but scary story. The first trip I took was I had $50,000 strapped on me. And I'll tell you what happened with that in a minute here, that money. Okay, so back then, Eastern Airlines would fly into Medellin, where I was actually supposed to go, and then go on to Bogota, and you didn't have to get off the plane, didn't go through customs or anything. So I land in Bogota, I get to customs, and there's just one guy there reading the book, and he asked me in Spanish, are you coming in from Nicaragua? And no, Ecuador. I said, I'm coming in from North America, Norte Americana, you know how they say it in Spanish. And so he waves me by, he doesn't look at anything. Okay, so as a quick aside, the second time I flew into Colombia, it was to Medellin, and I got off the plane in Medellin, and they searched everything. They searched my fountain pen. It was ridiculous. I had nothing. I had nothing on me, right? But if I would have landed, if Craig would have told me the right city, and I would have gotten off the plane in Medellin, I would have got nabbed with that 50 G's. I would have been in a world of trouble.
Right.
Okay, so I go ahead on to Bogota, and I call the number that Craig gave me to call to make my connection. And the lady answers, and in Spanish says, "No, there's nobody by that name here." So I figured I must have dialed the wrong number. I'm in the Hotel Intercontinental, by the way, in Bogota. So I dial the number again. Same lady answers and said, "Sorry, there's no one by that name here." So I'm just waiting around thinking, well, I'm probably somebody's going to call me or something. So Craig calls me up, Bruce's brother. And he says, "Listen, man, I'm so sorry. I told you the wrong city. You're supposed to be in Medellin." And I go, oh, okay. So I figured I'd take one of those, I can't think of the name, a little bus with little decorations and real colorful. I took one of those things from Bogota to Medellin. I didn't want to get on an airplane. I had already done enough risk with the money strapped to me as I wanted to. Okay, so I get there. Everything works out. I get in the hotel. I call my connection, and I go to meet Bruce's guy. And Bruce's guy is a retired Air Force colonel, which is a high up in their military. Bruce needed this guy and his people so bad because he was growing in the central plains of Colombia, Punta Roja, and he had to get it flown to the west coast of Colombia because all the mountains they didn't have any rail, highways. He had to fly. So they'd fly his weed and drop it off the plane onto the shore there. And the little village by that shore, they were hired. The whole village was hired, and they would take the pot off the bales, off the beach, put it in their storage place, and then wait for Bruce's boat to show up to get loaded up and go back the 4,000 miles back to the San Francisco Bay. Okay, so I meet the guy and I got the 50 grand. I give him the 50 grand, and he says, "Well, listen, Kelly, here's what we're going to do. We want to make sure you can fly. And so we're going to take my double engine Embraer and we're going to fly to this little village." And he didn't actually say what we're going to do. So we get to the village, he's got the 50 G's, and he hands it out to all the people that live in this village, just cash everywhere. And these people are just overjoyed because this is serious money and they could change it for their money, so it was they liked the job and they liked the pay, right? Okay, so he said, "Now listen, Kelly, here's what we're going to do now. We're going to fly to the offload spot, and then you're going to put the hood on." The hood is a thing you use when you're getting instrument rated. You can't see the area. All you can see is the instruments. And I was rated for that, right? So he says, "Okay, we're going to see if you can actually fly." So we go to the spot. He shows me the landing strip. It's like on a hill, of course. And so I put the hood on, and he starts flying around, zigzagging and stuff, thinking, well, I'm going to know if the guy's for real. Okay, I'm watching the instruments, and I know right where we're going. I know right what we're doing. And he says, "Okay, take over." And I'm flying, and I'm just looking at the instruments, and I fly right back to the landing strip. So he says, "Okay, man, you're the real deal." Okay, so I go back to Florida. I've done the work of showing I'm the real deal. Meanwhile, Bruce has bought me a C-45. Just a wonderful plane that was built. Thousands of them were built for the Second World War, but hundreds more were built after the war in the 50s. So I got a choice C-45. I had a team of mechanics. They come with 2 props. We put 3 props on the engines. These guys, they just checked everything out, and we installed a Ryan storm scope into it. We didn't have radar per se. We had a Ryan storm scope because lightning, it was the big danger. You knew about storms, but lightning could take you down. Okay, so the next step, the plane's ready to go. It's in good shape, and I've got a pilot who will probably be an interesting story. This pilot's nickname is Wild Man. And that's because in one of his many successful, well, this one was not, in many of his successful trips, he had a real flair, but he also had a drug problem, big time. But when he's going to do a trip, he'd clean out completely. All right, so he was my pilot. Okay, and I was the co-pilot. So we had the C-45, and we flew it all over the place. We really wanted to get good with this plane because we were going to fly way far away and land in a country that wasn't completely safe, right? Okay, so we get it down. We got this plane figured out. We do a charter from Gainesville, Florida to Atlanta. We really know what we're doing with this plane. Meanwhile, some mechanics are putting together a big in-the-cabin gas tank so that we wouldn't have to refuel to get back to the United States.
Is that those planes you sent me pictures of?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they're not
I'm
the
about
actual
to.
planes.
I'm
They're not
about
the actual
to
plane,
upload.
but they're the exact model. They call them tail draggers. You got a double rudder. You got this little wheel on the back of it. There you go. Okay, you see the double rudder. You see on the back of the plane, there's this little bitty tire. That's why they called it a tail dragger. You'd land with the front wheels, and then you do it so that the back wheel would gently set down. Okay, so I think this plane has two propellers. But like I say, we put three propeller prop on it because it'd be more powerful. Okay, so we have the plane staged at this little airport in Palatka, Florida. And Rick was tight with the owner of this. It was a private airport, and the guy that owned it knew what was going on. And he was cool. Rick had flown many trips, mostly to Jamaica, but he had done Colombian too. And here's how he got the title Wild Man. He had a DC-6 that was full of weed, good weed, and his offload team was sitting on the coast of Georgia, waiting for him to come and land so they could offload. Okay, Rick, his name was Rick Jones, but they called him Wild Man. You'll see why. Okay, so he checks the plane out and he says, "Look, this plane is not airworthy. That fourth engine over there could explode." And they pulled guns on him and said, "Get in the plane and fly to Georgia." He had no choice. He had no choice but to do that. Okay, so he flies to Georgia. He gets to the coast to where the landing spot is, and the flashing lights aside, the red lights are flat. The cops are there. They're busting them. So he can't land. He's got to fly all the way back to Colombia. Okay, so he's just a couple miles from the coast of Colombia, and that engine explodes, and he had to crash land in the water. Okay, so here's how he got the name or the nickname Wild Man. He swam the 2 miles to the coast in shark-infested waters, and because he did that and succeeded and didn't die, that's where he got the name Wild Man. Okay. Yeah.
He earned it.
So then it's the time for me to go approve the weed that I'm going to bring back. Now, this is killer interesting. And even people, nobody knows who Luther Burbank is. He was
breeder.
You do? You know?
Tomatoes. Yeah. Plants.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm excited to hear how he fits into this story.
Yeah. Well, you should be. It's really cool. Okay, so I'm going back to approve the weed, and one other thing that I'll talk about. Okay, so I go there and I'm staying. Bruce had the head of security at the Medellin airport on his payroll, and he lived within walking distance of the airport. And when I landed, he and I just went to his house, and that's where I stayed. I stayed at his house, and they were just really nice people, really great people. Okay, so the courier comes to bring me the weed to see if I said yes. I couldn't believe it. I thought pot only got like that coming over in the bilge in the hold of a freighter. It was terrible. I think it had been on the beach or something. No, it was just not good. And I said, no, no, I need something with color and fragrance. It's got to be the top. So, they say, okay, we're going to get you something. Okay, so meanwhile, Bruce's bodyguard, who's coming to bodyguard me, he shows up. Now, at this point, I didn't smoke weed. So they come back with this marvelous red purple weed like I've never seen before or since. It was unbelievable. Now I couldn't smoke it, right? So right away I thought, yeah, this is it. This is it. Get a ton of this in the plane, get back, and it's going to be good. Okay, so I didn't smoke at that point. I didn't smoke pot, but Nelson did. He could tell if it was really good. So it was. Now here's the story of that weed. The guy that was known as the Luther Burbank of Colombia had bred this superior, wonderful weed. And he got caught, though. He got put in prison. Bruce's guy, Mike, in Colombia, took the 200,000, gave it to the authorities, and got him out of prison. And so this guy kind of devoted himself to Bruce. And Bruce was already doing Punta Roja, which is really great, of course, red pot, right? So I had the hookup with this other pot. So the Air Force colonel, I'm with him now. I went to his place to get to look at the weed. Okay, so he said,
So
Kelly, I know you like
you
it.
could visibly see a difference in quality without like.
It was like Thai compared to Mexican. The difference. It was unbelievable. It was so beautiful, and the fragrance was like a fine perfume. And hydroponic can look great, smell great, but maybe be weak, right?
Right.
But it wasn't. It wasn't. Nelson approved it, so I know it was good. But the Army colonel says, Kelly, I know you like this, but you're not going to want it because it's $80 a pound, to you. And I said, oh no, I want it. I want it. Okay, so it was set up. And I already knew, they already knew that I could fly, and they trusted me when I said that I got a pilot with more experience and skill than me. I was the co-pilot for. So he felt good about that. So they said, okay, we're going to get you 1,000 pounds of this weed, and it's bred by this guy, the special. That's why it was so special. He had some kind of knack that nobody could really explain for breeding. Seeds and plant species or cultivars or whatever.
And he was doing it outdoors, or he was growing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, doing it outdoors.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he was just doing some heavy selecting, like really, really picky.
Exactly. Over
you,
time.
You said aroma was like perfumey, so
yes.
I would imagine think a lot of floral and gas to my heavy smokers. Like
right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so it looked good. Okay, now the last step in the whole deal was this. Bruce had a pilot of the airlines of Colombia Avianca on his payroll. So what had happened is, to screw up people like me, they changed the frequency of the navigation beacons in Colombia. And so I don't know what happened to people, loads that are pilots that came in and didn't know about this, because without those navigation beacons, you didn't know where the hell you were, because you didn't have a lot of lands. You didn't have like cities. It was a lot of it flying over mountains, right? Okay, so the story was, this pilot came to me. He gave me a map, and he had all the correct new frequencies marked out on the map. So we knew we were going to get past this trick that the government was throwing at smugglers flying in to get weed. Okay, so it's looking good. Got everything set. Got the offload team, the offload site. We got the plane in good shape. We're confident. We have the gas tank that I can't remember if they're going to fuel us or not, but we didn't actually need it if they didn't have it. Okay, so we're ready. We're all jacked up, Rick and I are getting on the plane. And here comes the cops. So the
By the
cops
way,
show up.
just quickly, what year are we in right now?
I know. I
Okay,
was just
it's let me. It was 78,
Okay.
1978. Yeah. Okay, so the cops tell Rick, get in the car. They don't say anything, you're under arrest or anything, and they don't have their guns out, but they have them get in the car. And so the other cop stays at the airport there, and he goes to get into the plane to search it. And I tell him, listen, I'm an agent. I was the owner, actually. I'm the agent of the owner of this plane, and I do not give you permission to get this, to look in this plane. You're gonna have to get a warrant. And so the cop says, okay, well, get in the car and come with me. Okay, so they take me to the Palatka jail. Rick, of course, he is already there. He's already in the cell, but he's famous. So the fact that I knew him, I was his guy. Oh, I was protected. You know, he gave cigarettes to everybody in the whole jail, and it was they also said he said, hey, now treat Kelly, he's my guy, right? Treat him good. Okay, and they did. It was very safe, actually. Okay, so I get in the cell, and then about an hour later, they no, I didn't get in the cell. I went into the holding cell where when you go to jail or leave, you always go in this holding cell. So I'm sitting in this holding cell and I'm waiting like 2 hours and I'm thinking, what? I didn't get arrested. What the hell's going on? Okay. So a guy comes across a cop. He comes across the street to the jail. The courthouse is right across the street. He comes over and he's got manacles. He says, listen, man, I'm so sorry. We're short-staffed today. I got to put you in the manacles. And that's where you got it on your wrist. It's hooked to your legs, you know. Your feet have a chain between them, you know. So you can shuffle. So I shuffled across the street, right? Like I said, the guy was apologetic because normally you have two guys and you just have handcuffs. You don't have the man that kind of security. Okay, so we get over there. He takes the manacles off and he escorts me to this conference room. I walk in the conference room and there's a judge, there's a prosecutor, and there's a stenographer, a reporter, and there's a witness. Okay, so the judge says to me, okay, Kelly, we're going to ask you a question. And we are giving you, they officially gave me complete immunity. We are going to ask you a question. And if you don't answer, since we've given you immunity, you're going to be guilty of what do they call it? Something. Damn, of the court. You know, not obeying the court when you have a
Contempt.
immunity. Yeah, yeah. What'd you say?
Contempt.
Contempt. Yes. Duh. Okay. Contempt of court. Right. So he said, if you don't answer, we're going to put you in for 6 months over there. You're not going to be arrested because you're not arrested. You're in contempt of this court. We've given you immunity. You can't take the fifth. You're not. You have no legal standing. So he tells me, you're going to get 6 months. Answer this question. Okay. And Mister doesn't lie. I tell him, Rick is my friend. I'm not telling you anything. So he's like, okay, go. Let's see you in 6 months. Okay. So this is on a Friday afternoon. So I had to, no matter what happened, I had to stay the weekend in jail. But like I say, Rick's there, the word's out on me, and I'm treated like some kind of star, you know, in that jail. Okay. So here comes Monday, and Rick has gotten a really good lawyer for me. And they take me over to the courthouse again, just in handcuffs this time. And I meet with this lawyer. And the lawyer says to me, are you a cop? And I say, no. And so he says, well, what are you doing with him? And I said, well, let's not go into that. And so he tells me, okay, listen, what they asked me was this: have you ever seen Rick Jones use drugs? And I thought he was still on parole. And I thought, if I tell, he's going to get his parole revoked and go back to prison. And I just couldn't deal with that. You know, I couldn't be responsible for that. And I was not going to lie. I was still doing my dharma. Okay. So I go back over, and one thing I forgot to mention was as I'm going over to meet this lawyer from the jail to the courthouse, Rick's there in the holding cell. He was being extradited to Gainesville, Florida, to face a really bogus cocaine charge. He had left a packet with coke residue on a bar, bar table, and cops got it, tested it. It was coke, so they thought, oh, we knew about him. They knew he was big. They thought, we got him. But it turns out his lawyer, this is an aside, it turns out his lawyer said, well, I got to test it. And they had used it all for their test. So he got off. Okay, so anyway, meanwhile, he's got me this good lawyer.
Technicalities.
Yeah, technicalities, right? Exactly. So, the lawyer says, when he finds out what I'm going to say, I already found out that Rick, when we met each other in the holding cell, I said, man, are you still on parole? He said, no, I'm not. So I thought, okay, I could tell the truth, and he wouldn't get his parole revoked. Okay. So this lawyer finds out what's going on and what I can say. And he says, go in there and tell him the truth. Okay. So I go back in, there's the people, I got immunity. And the question comes, have you ever seen Rick Jones use drugs? I tell him, on 2 occasions, Rick and I smoked this marijuana cigarette together. And they said, you should get out of here. You should have told us that. So they kicked me out and I left. There was nothing about smuggling, nothing about the plane. And here's why. They wanted Rick so bad because Rick's older brother was a really bad man. He was a bad criminal, and he probably had committed murders, but he was too smart. He'd never been caught. And the Palatka police got so disgusted with the situation, they went to go assassinate him. Meanwhile, Rick and Brad find out that the cops are coming. Rick gets up in a tree with a rifle. The cops show up. They bring Brad out to kill him, and Rick says, "Hey, if you shoot him, I'm shooting all y'all." So the cops, they were doing something illegal anyway, so they split. But man, did they have a grudge about this?
This was in Florida?
Yeah, this is in Florida, a little small town in north central Florida called Palatka.
Police executions, Jesus.
Okay, so the smuggling trip, my first attempt and only attempt, has failed miserably. The plane is just sitting there. The end story on the plane was the mechanics that did it, fixed it up. They came and stole the plane from that airport, got a airline pilot that was on their team to fly to Jamaica and get a load and bring it back. But the Coast Guard, flying, they would fly also, and they spotted the guy. So they went after him. So he took the plane and parked it. He landed on this abandoned highway that was getting built. It was all in good shape, but it hadn't been opened yet. He landed there and he ran away.
This was back in Florida?
Yeah.
Okay.
This was in Florida. He flew the load from Jamaica to Florida with my plane. And I didn't want it anyway. At that point it was, oh no, I'm done with that. Okay, so man, so he gets away, the plane's grabbed, and my opportunity is shot. Okay, so Rick comes back to Palatka, and so I'm out. I'm free. I wasn't arrested. I never have been arrested in my lifetime. But so they let me go because I couldn't get anything good on Rick. Okay, so Rick comes back and he says, "Listen, man, I want you to go with me to meet Sella Golden. He's a killer lawyer. I have $30,000 in his safe in case I ever get in trouble. He'll have a retainer and he'll get right on my case, right?" So I go there and I meet this guy, and he says to me, "Hey, were you in on the Cat Island situation?" This is one of Bruce's big gigs, right? Bruce Perlin. So he says, "Listen, were you down there?" And I said, "No, I wasn't on that one." He said, "Look, the feds think you were there and they're watching it." So at that point, I said, "I am done." and they were watching me. At one point, I'm telling a good friend that I met in high school that Bruce introduced me to, by the way. I'm telling, look, man, I'm hot. I'm super hot. And he's like, oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're hot. Okay. We drive into a grocery store parking lot, and I point up, and there's a helicopter circling that had been following us because they wanted Bruce so bad, and they knew I was connected, and they just wanted to get him. They thought if they followed me, they'd eventually get him. Well, that didn't work out. Okay, so that was it. I said, I'm done. I'm done. So I decided, well, I can work now. I'm good enough to work. So I got a job at a gas station. I didn't know anything about cars. I read a book and I started as a mechanic's apprentice. And so you couldn't get your hands clean. So I just hated that. So I also knew electronics. I had taken a home course in radio electronics. And so I knew how TVs worked, right? So I went in Lake Worth, Florida, and I got a job as a TV repairman. Okay, so the problem with that idea was you can't really make any money. Of course, now forget it. TV repairman, that doesn't exist anymore. You just go buy a new one for a few hundred at Walmart. Okay, so um, I decided, nah, this is not working out. So my buddy, a guy that Bruce talks about, it was kind of one of his main employees. Uh, he tells me, listen, man, I got a job out in the oil patch being a mud logger. And that's, he did when they get the drill, when they're drilling a hole and he looks at the mud to see if there's evidence that there's oil down there. Okay, so he says, you got to get a job in the oil patch. So I do that. And I had family that had connections, right? So I went to Lake Charles, Louisiana. I thought, man, I'm going to be able to get a job here. They got dog refineries, all got, and they go out of here out to Gulf, and so couldn't get a job. So I go to Houston. I check out with Shell. Nope, I was too educated. So they didn't want anybody real educated because they wouldn't stick. Okay, so I'm bummed to max, and I go from Southwest Louisiana and Texas to Houston. I go to Texas, and then I go to Austin to where my cousin lives. And so my cousin was a really popular musician in Austin, just a superb guitarist, and there was always a party at his house. Okay, so um, I'm telling Mark my sad story. I can't get a job in an oil patch. I don't know what I'm gonna do. So there's a kid 14 years old there. He said, hey, listen, do you want a job in an oil patch? And I say, well, yeah. He said, listen, my grandpa just retired from being the president of Sun Oil. Let me call him up. I think I can get you a job. He calls his grandpa. He gets up the phone. He
That's a
says,
good connection.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so he puts down the phone. He said, listen, man, Kelly, sit here. A guy is going to call you and tell you when to report to Morgan City, Louisiana, to the heliport. Because that's how, if there was bad weather, or sometimes even if there's good weather, they'd fly you in helicopter out to the rig. Okay, so I got this job as a rigger, and a rigger, this was a production rig, so it wasn't the danger of a drilling rig. Most of the guys that were involved with drilling, they had missing fingers. Okay, so I crawled through the pipes. I hung off the side of the ship and and did just blazing it and stuff. But I loved it. I really liked it, and the money was good. It was 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, 2 weeks at a shot. It was 2 weeks on, 1 week off. Okay, so I really like it. It's a really cool job. I'm thinking, yeah, oh, hey, this is good. Okay, so I go back to this is near Christmas, right? So I go back to shore, go to my house. I'm waiting for the call to go. It's like Christmas is a holiday period. So that passes, and I'm still waiting for a call. So finally, I called the guy. I said, listen, man, if you fired me, you should have told me. He said, listen, we are bankrupt. There's an oil glut so bad that 25% of the companies doing this type of stuff, are going under.
What year is this?
This is okay. This is 79 or 80. No, excuse me. No, it was after. No, I got that wrong. It was the oil glut hit in late 1982, and it was terrible. You had the area where they store drill rigs just filled up because it.
So
You know,
this is 3 years after you were flying from
yeah,
Colombia.
yeah, and I was trying to go legit. You know.
Well, but
Uh,
I'm thinking about the oil thing because obviously, like, what was it, 79? There was an oil shortage. So you're saying in
yes.
82, we had something that rarely happens, which is we had an excess of oil.
See, you nailed it as far as why this all happened. Because, like you said, there was a shortage in 79. So they got out there and
All the
drill.
money went into it. Yeah. Kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
weed and the booms and bust
yeah,
of, yes,
kind
of legal
of
weed
like.
and
Okay,
heroin,
so,
tulips.
oh man. So again, I'm out of a job, you know? So what am I going to do? So Mark, one of Bruce's main guys, Mark was a great offload team manager. I don't know how many guys were on his team because I didn't know about the complexity of this, of what was going on in Bruce's company. It was amazing when I looked at his podcast and heard. I didn't believe a lot of the stuff. I did believe about the electronics, about the surveillance, because the guy that was his guy doing this took me to his apartment, and he had a row of receivers, and he had a wide band receiver that he could tell anything on any frequency, any modulation that was occurring. So he would get he'd he'd get that frequency and investigate, and it turned out he had everybody's. He had the cops, he had the DEA, he had the FBI, he had he had everybody. So so the reason I was out there is that I got no job. I'm living on a trailer outside, by I-10 in Louisiana, and the blizzard hits. I'm sitting in this trailer wondering what the hell am I going to do, and then the pipes behind me burst, and I'm thinking, I just can't take this. I can't deal with this. I'm not real happy about staying alive. This sucks. Right then, Mark, I called him Mark the Shark. Mark the Shark calls me. He says, "Listen, man, I need a van hauled from Southeast Florida, hauled out to Northern California." And he said, "I'll give you $3,000 if you do it." So I hauled a van with a van, and there was nothing illegal about
That's good in today's money too.
it. You said it, man. You said it. But I think it was a lot kindness because he had heard that I was down on my luck, you know. So I go on out there, and then I find out what's going on. And I realized that dock was the real deal. They've already done 12 trips safely into that dock. Now, the electronics guy, what he did for me, he had this cheap voice activated Radio Shack tape recorder, and he played me a tape. And it was a tape of the activity of the night when I actually did offload. The night I did the offload, there was a great big kingpin who had escaped, and all the law enforcement agencies were
Chatter.
all after this guy. They wanted to get this guy bad.
What was it, just quickly, did this guy have, like, I mean, I'm thinking of like trying to record stuff back in the early 80s. Like,
Yeah.
it's even annoying now when I try to do stuff. So, would he have different channels and then a tape recorder attached to each one so that,
Yes.
like,
No,
he
no,
or a
no, no,
team
no. What
could
he
go
had,
back
he
in the day through a, like, a
not no.
specific
That was
channel
not
and
how. That's
frequency?
not what happened. He had scanners, and he could pick up. What he did was that night that did the offload, he picked up the whole conversation between all the law enforcement agencies because he
So
had
he was
scanners.
listening in real time, but
No,
he would have to pick one channel, right?
well, no. See, the story was the one of the communicators would start talking on this, and the scanner would produce the voice, you know, and that would trigger the tape recorder because it was voice activated. And from then on, there
That's
was no
awesome.
gap because the guys were talking to each other. And
Set it
so,
and forget it.
yeah, so we were safe. Okay. So anyway, I figured, okay, I need some starting out money because I got nothing. I got $3,000, but that's not going to go very long. So I find out that Marks pays 12,500 for offloaders, people that work the dock, right? So I say, man, I want to do that. He said, man, I don't know. You know, you're a good friend. I'd hate for something to happen. You know, it'd just be terrible. But I said, listen, man, I need some help. And he said, okay, you're in. Okay, so this is the 13th load. It was the first tie load that Bruce did. And so I was so lucky.
This is now in the Bay Area
Yes, this is
spot.
at this
Okay.
dock, this barge dock, right? And if you haven't seen the podcast that he has done about it, you should. It's
Well, we
amazing.
had, like I was saying earlier at the show, a couple weeks ago, we had him on.
Oh yeah,
And
I
he was
watched all 4
talking,
hours
and
and
we
20
brought up
minutes.
some of the map to show
Oh
where he
yeah,
was moving.
there you go. There
So
you
if
go.
anybody watching needs a visual, go check out
I
that
could do
show.
that.
It's so cool how they
Actually,
connect.
I'm gonna cue that up. But what I was gonna say is, at this point in time, did your dream start looking like this? Was
Well,
that plane
uh,
calling your name again?
that was over. No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't tempted at all. No, I wanted to go legit, you know, but I needed it so bad. If 12,500 plus the 3,000, like you said, in today's money, that was a good wad of dough, and that got me a start in Austin. Okay, so um, so the cool thing about this was I got to see some of the. I didn't see everything. I heard later all the the spare place, spelled docks, the speedboat. I knew about the speedboats there at the dock, but I didn't know it was for an escape situation. So here comes the boat, and this boat was it had 30 30 30,000 pounds. Okay, so the thing about this tie lead uh, was packaged in
Just quickly, what bridge was the dock off?
The Richmond Bridge.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, once they saw the truck that had been loaded up, the semi, once they saw it go across the Richmond Bridge, they knew everything was okay. That was the signal. That was a sign that it was working. Everything was good. Okay, so I, I've had back problems since I was a kid. And my chiropractor said you can't lift more than 40 pounds. And so it's a little concerned because the bales can weigh up to 80 pounds. Well, this tie weed was packed in these brand new quality backpacks, and only 20. It was only 20 pounds per backpack. So I had it was like a line that guy get the pack off the boat. It'd come to one person, it would come to me, and it would come to the person that was going to pack it in the semi. So it was fun working, and I didn't realize how safe it was actually, but everything worked out great. Um, the pot was really fantastic. I think he sold it for five
So
and a
just
quarter.
quickly, if
Yeah.
any kids are watching, the key takeaway from this conversation is take big risks, and it'll all work out.
Well, just to be honest and weird about it, I felt sort of blessed to tell you the truth. After this experience of cosmic consciousness, I felt this connection to the divine, So I had this feeling like, listen, as long as I'm focused on that goal, I'm gonna be okay. And that turned out to be true. Okay, so so I we did the load, we got off. I left in a boat with Mark, and everything was fine. It was like I say, this weed went for five and a quarter off the boat. I think it sold for 750 to end customers, because it was really superb tie. it was really top quality tie. And he did more tie loads after that, but this was his first one. And so that was it. That was it for me. At that point, I went to Austin. I started doing IT, and I did that for 35 years with IBM and other companies. And in 2020, I retired. And so, so my smuggling story is I was embarrassed to even come on his podcast because it was a failure. I never got, I never picked up any weed. I was ready to go. I think we would have succeeded, but too bad, right? So the good thing about it was uh, that Bruce, I knew where he was coming from. He was making a ton of money, but it wasn't really the money that was his focus. His focus was, well, what can I do with this money that will benefit as many people as possible?
Well, if you caught again, if his last show, like the show we had him on, he really like talked about like the team that was what he was doing. It wasn't like he
Yes.
never spoke on it like it was just him. You
Oh,
know, he gave a lot of credit
absolutely.
to the people around, like
He really
you,
cared.
like, and
Yeah, he
that's why
really.
you're on, is because he
Yeah,
mentioned you and was like, oh, and he connected us. So it was,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
it's, and my goal, like now, after kind of meeting you and chatting with you, is I would like to go through that list too. You know, pass along anybody else's number that has some stories to
I wouldn't
share.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to pull that off for you. Here's something really interesting. I think he told the story on your podcast. Um, he and Dave, his partner, made leather purses, and they were really good belts. They were really good at leather work, guitar straps. Okay, so uh, our the guy that we grew up with came to him and said, "Listen, man, I'm kind of hot," and he had part of a bale, 17 pounds out of a bale. I think you guys heard this story. So uh, Bruce, he was just supposed to keep it because Bruce and Dave were not hot at all. Instead, they sold it. All right. So the guy found out about that, and he said, "Well, I'll bring you 50 pounds." They sold that. So at this point, I think that Bruce ran you through the story. At this point, he decides, okay, that's the right career for me. And so he went from there to hundreds, then to thousands, and then to smuggling tons. And the thing was, though, on the East Coast, now this is cool. This is, and he didn't know about it. I knew about it because of Nelson, that bodyguard. Here's what happened. Um, all kinds of problems happened. The freighters would get grounded. They'd run aground in Cuba. They'd get popped. But the way back then is you'd take a speedboat or a yacht out to the freighter, load it up, and then bring it up in pieces, right? Okay, so Bruce was really disenchanted about doing business on the East Coast. So he hired a think tank uh, on the sly, saying, I think he said he was going to write a book to research all the West Coast busts. And most
That's
of them
amazing.
happened. Do you know about this?
No, but
Okay,
it's
okay,
genius. It's like,
yeah, yeah,
if I have the
he
money to
is.
hire a think tank to figure
Yes,
something out, I don't need like they. Do you think they had a hunch of why he was asking,
I don't think so. He
or they
was a
were like,
great
"Wow, this
liar.
guy's
He
just
killed it
really
lying.
curious about drug busts"?
No, no, he could play the part, no problem. So most of the busts happen at the border between U.S. and Canada. So
Interesting.
he figured, okay, this barge, I'm gonna do it on the west coast of Colombia. I'm gonna grow Punta Roja in the plains of Colombia. I'm gonna fly it over, and then my people are gonna make the 8,000-mile round trip down and back, and come right back through the Golden Gate Bridge, go to that dock, and unload there. So 13 times that worked with that. In fact, nothing ever got busted on that dock. I mean,
What blew me, what just quickly, what blows me away, think when he was telling all the stories, it was like the geographic scope of his operation, where he's like, we had islands like 500 miles off the coast of Colombia that were like a patch of like a rice grain in the
Yeah,
sea,
yeah.
and we had like planes like things to move stuff around stored there with like what was didn't he have like military or like police guarding it like
Yeah,
on the
dude, the
payroll?
logistics when you
The
showed that scope and you're
generals.
like the
I
logistics
had no
behind
idea.
that
I
were
really didn't have any
astronomically
idea.
yeah,
'Cause
it was so cool.
he would tell tall tales, right? So when he told me about the doc, I believed him, but I thought he was overblown, you know. Okay, so he he was more successful and competent than I could have imagined. And now I know the story. Um, but here's something that I asked him about this recently. He didn't know about it. Um, a new president was elected in Colombia. Okay, this guy Mike, his guy in Colombia, went to this new president and who was corrupt and said, "Listen, let's work out a deal." And so what he did was the president said, "Okay, I'll crack down on the Rio Hacha, the northeast corner of Colombia, where most of the weed was coming from." Bruce, on the other hand, was growing in the plains, and he had this route that was just, not be touched by any heat. So he was protected. But like I say, I asked him about that recently. He didn't know that happened, but he explained, well, I had my guy Mike could have done something. And I think Mike probably bailed that Luther Burbank out himself without Bruce knowing it, you know? Okay, so the setup was just perfect where um,
Do you think
all
that
the,
guy's still alive?
no, no, he was I think he was 60 when he got sprung for that prison.
I'd like to
So,
hear his story.
oh, I would too. I would too. I was so
I
impressed with
spent my
really.
life dedicated to cannabis genetics
Yes,
in my
and he
homeland
did
of
so good.
Colombia.
He did so good. You know, um, at before this, he had brought some that this guy bred, and he brought it to me in Gainesville, and I guess it must have been like 400 pounds of it, and it was the same. It wasn't exact what I looked at in Columbia, but it was special. It had kind of tendrils instead of leaves. So I got a couple guys came down from Ohio that I was going to front this week to them, and they said they looked at it and it was like this is marijuana. So well, yeah, and so they smoked it, and then then they said, "Oh yeah." So they took it up to Ohio and just sold the crap out of it, even though it didn't even look like weed. It was such a unique cultivar that you
I bet
couldn't
the
really
smoke was
identify it
amazing.
clearly as marijuana.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
so funny.
It,
My wife's father-in-law was, that's what or my wife's dad, it's my father-in-law. That's what he smoked growing up through like, 60s and 70s. And I brought him down to my basement to see my indoor grow. And he was like, wait, what? That's what weed looks like? I'm like, yeah, that's what it looks like while it's growing, not like what you got in a bag. It was just the coolest thing to see, like, on his face. I could see, like, because I've seen pictures and heard stories and, used to buy what I bought. And
oh yeah.
yeah. So what it looks like and what it can look like are so vastly different. If you're used to one thing, you're like, nobody would even know.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, this reminds me of something that I didn't make clear in the first previous podcast. I talked about using sunflower oil. Well, a lot of marijuana products are made with medium chain triglycerides. That's kind of the usual thing. Those triglycerides go into the blood. They get absorbed into the blood. Um, the long chain triglycerides, like sunflower oil or safflower oil, they get into the lymph system, and that's why this worked. I failed to make that clear. That's why when the oil I make gets into the intestines, it goes right into the lymphatic system because that's how this oil is absorbed. So
Me and Peter were actually talking about that, and we're trying to figure out like a doctor that's really familiar with some of that and like the endocannabinoid system,
Yeah.
and kind of going into some of the stuff that you were saying was like anecdotal on your part,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
connecting that to what the studies have shown. Yeah. And then explaining how that, like basically what you just said, on a more, I don't know how to put it, on a
Well, I
level
do.
that,
It's biochemistry. It's the
yeah.
cytokines and immune cells. It's very complicated. But these guys were up to the task. These guys were really good scientists, and they documented the hell out of this stuff and very clearly expressed their conclusion, which was you do this, you get the CBD into the lymphatic system through the intestines, you're going to get immunomodulation, and all the autoimmune diseases that are caused or that are causing attacks of your own body by your immune system, those are going to stop.
Mm.
So they made the case, and was saw. Now they didn't have clinical trials, but they made the case biochemically and with results reported in the laboratory, in animals, but also in people. So there's one more, the little detail I want to mention in case somebody heard this, the podcast and wanted to do exactly what I said to do. That is, it wasn't, I said a cup of sunflower oil to a cup of a Phoenix 22% hemp. It's 2 3/4 cups. And what that does is using that amount in the magical butter machine, it exactly fills up a spaghetti sauce bottle.
Oh.
Exactly, right to the top. So I just wanted to mention that in case somebody, the podcast I was on has over 1,200 views. So I thought somebody in there is going
From
to try
last
to,
week, right?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, somebody's going to want to check it out. So I hope that's the case.
Oh yeah, abs, and that's kind of why me and Peter were talking about having you back on with a doctor, because some of that stuff they can elaborate on. And
Yes.
I just reached out to Del Potter, who also could tell his not smuggling but chemistry stories, and
right.
Yeah.
he's a chemist, so he could also probably talk about
Ooh, that'd be good.
So I
the
was
That'd be
like
good.
actually about to bridge the two.
lipids and
Did any
fats and
point in your smuggling history did you think you would be here talking about this?
Hell no.
on people's computers
It took me, it took me a long time to
on
deal
their Apple
with
IIs.
with getting on Bruce's. But I figured, okay, uh, I'm gonna get I want people to know who Bruce really is. I don't want the people to think he's this Jewish, greedy, guy that doesn't care about people. He just wants the money and he will do whatever. No, that's not him. That's not who he is. And it turns out a lot of the smugglers that he's recruited to be involved in his, celebration of the of smuggling. They're the same way. They're the
Like-minded,
same.
yeah. No, that's what
Yeah,
it
like mine.
seems like it.
Yeah. So no, I wasn't going to do it. No, no. And what got me to do yours is the fact that you guys were open-minded and you wouldn't just do a cutoff, say, well, we're done. We're gonna stop. No. I
Yeah,
watched
we're very
every minute.
long form.
Now, I think technically it was 4 hours and 21 minutes,
Yeah.
but you could call it 420, 4 hours and 20 minutes. And I never got bored. In fact, we laughed our asses off, me and my wife Sharon, because you, man, Jeff, you were hilarious.
Oh, thanks.
Walking around, showing the hash, then lighting up, and then walking out.
It's very relaxed. Like we
Yeah.
have this, me and Peter kind of
It's great.
established
Yeah.
this.
Today was a relaxing day.
Yeah. Well, most of the shows are like that, where it literally is like hanging out on the couch
Yes.
with just people. Like, all right, let's sit
Right.
down and smoke and chat and just
Yeah.
kind of fill the
Yeah,
room.
I loved how you'd be lighting up.
Yeah. So,
But you said some really. The other thing about you guys is you seem to really be focused on medical, which is just like an emerging thing. You guys said stuff I didn't know, like about CBG. I didn't know about its efficacy as a analgesic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys know stuff that I hope gets to people because there's like you said, you said in those podcasts, um, the it's individualized. So somebody can get an effect from one cultivar, and another person won't get it. But in my view, what I'm talking about now has more broad implication that the fat it gets has the CBD in it. It goes into the lymphatic system through your intestines. Then it achieves a density, a concentration of 250 times what can be done with blood, and then it goes to the spleen, and then the immunomodulation happens. And so, when I got into this, I didn't want symptomatic. Uh, the drugs for rheumatoid arthritis, they will keep you from getting your joints eaten, but you expose, we talked about this, you expose yourself to fungus and bacteria that wouldn't normally bother you. So I was going for remission. And I just threw the dice. And Bruce helped me. Said I told him, that I had it. He said, "Well, you need to study the endocannabinoid system," which I did. And then that allowed me to stumble onto these guys that did this research. And what happened was, out in Denver, I had gone to a seminar about autoimmune disease treated by cannabis. And in the audience were these four people that were starting this brand. They were come from the pharmaceutical industry, and they used pharmaceutical manufacturing techniques to make their products. One of their products was a 25-to-1 CBD to THC pill, and they said when you take this pill, eat some food with it. You have some food with it, and eat something with. I think they said eat something with fat in it. So what happened with their pill is, they had a way to make the pill dissolve quickly, so that in this case, the the fat most this long chain triglyceride is in a lot of food that has fat in it. So what was happening with me was I accidentally stumbled onto this, and what happened was I got this feeling of elation. And I didn't really talk about that before because that's one of the signs. It's anecdotal, but for me, it's a sign of it's working. Because what happened, I was taking these pills and I would get this profound sense of physical well-being. And
like you just felt normal again?
Yeah, no, better than normal. Better than normal. I felt, and I think it had to do with homeostasis, because that's what.
That's why I say normal, because that's where
normal,
you're at
right,
balance, and that's what cannabis is supposed to do.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so that's for me the sign of when it works is so people that try this, what I've talked about, and they take a tablespoon or whatever, they will know that it's working. And I hope this is true. They will get this elation. I call it that immunomodulation elation.
From the time you started till the time you experienced that homeostasis, did you go, like, how long were you dosing before you experienced that?
It happened right away, but I was trying all kinds of stuff. I didn't know what had done it. And now here's something that you guys probably know about. There's one danger with CBD, and that is CBD in the liver hogs a key digestive enzyme, won't let anything else use it. So certain pesticides, Tylenol, for instance, the metabolic pathway, Tylenol, for instance, the metabolic pathway goes and normally hits this enzyme, and it resolves, it metabolizes this real dangerous chemical that's produced by the metabolistic step before that. And what happens is, because it's not getting metabolized, it piles up. And this chemical kills liver cells. So this is the danger of not understanding. If you get too much CBD in you, and you get that enzyme taken over by CBD, then you can have issue with that. I had a problem with pesticide. I didn't really understand this. We had bed bugs in Colorado, and there was one pesticide was supposedly low toxicity that still worked on bed bugs. So I used that, sprayed the
But
mattress.
working on the assumption that your body would handle this chemical conversion to like make inert a toxic chemical, right?
Well, I didn't actually understand it in detail until I got sick. I got sick and I researched it. I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. And then I found out about this stuff I'm talking to you about. And what I did was I had to totally clean out. I had to let all the CBD get metabolized. And the symptoms started back right away. It was a real drag. It really messed up my remission for a while there because it happened 3 times. I let it, metabolize. I was free of CBD, but I was starting to get symptoms again. But I went back and slept in that bed, and right away again I got sick. And at 6 months of this crap, I finally got rid of that mattress, and then I was fine. But that's when I learned about this. So it's all the more important, because what happened with me was I figured out this was the stuff that was making this good happen. But I would just take it and not eat like I was supposed to. So it just accumulated in my liver like it wasn't supposed to. It was supposed to do. I don't know how these guys knew about it, but their stuff went crazy. Every dispensary, probably still in Colorado, has their products in it. And so what I was doing, I was overloading the possibility of getting the stuff into my lymphatic system. It would make it to my liver, and then grab this enzyme, and then I got the pileup of this low toxicity pesticide that really made me sick. But I got back on the regime. I was growing my own CBD weed then. I wasn't doing what I do now. What I do now is so much simpler. Growing, as you guys know, that can be really complicated. A lot of work. I loved it, but still very time consuming, especially if you don't do organic. If you do like I did, I went to class and I had all these, fertilizers.
I'll tell you right now, most of the people watching right now are probably trying to figure out how to grow their own sunflowers so that they can press the oil from the seeds.
I have a whole lot of sunflower growing outside right now.
Well, so, good luck. Yeah, that's good.
We love producing all of our own stuff, which is why we're slightly educated on a lot of stuff, is because we're so curious about all of the things we want to produce at home. If we can do this whole thing at our house, from the cannabis to the sunflower to the, decarb to infusion, like, we don't want to have to rely on any outside sources. So
right.
It's one of the things I love about this show is it, Peter calls it the PBS of cannabis, but it's so much more than that.
Something happened to me during a decarboxylation. I did what I normally do. I took the big stems out of this trimmed Phoenix hemp. It's 22%, really great, really dependable. And so I decarboxylated. Now, here's something that I didn't know at the time, that you decarboxylate CBD hemp longer than you do THC. I didn't know that at first. Now, when I decarboxylate hemp, I do it for 90 minutes in 220 degrees. But here's what happened. What I did was I had it in the oven. I did the hour of decarboxylation. I guess it was an hour. Yeah. This would have been my first attempt. Was it was not 90. But in any case, here's the punchline. I decarboxylate, I turn the oven off, and I fall asleep. So 4 to 6 hours. Now, I was decarboxylating in a covered baking dish. I didn't grind it. I just took the big stems out and did the buds, because that the magical butter documentation says you don't need to grind it. In fact, don't do that. So I there it was, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I ruined it. I probably turned the CBD and lost potency. Is terrible. No, the potency was much greater with what I did there. I was shocked because I estimated it was like 4 times as powerful. I could use a fourth of the dose that I had been using and get the same effect. So I don't understand why this is, but that's what I do now. I just made a batch. My wife just made a batch, that is, and I when I estimated it was 4 to 6 hours that I slept before I realized, oh no, what have I done? So we did 6 hours, and so it was so simple. But like I say, I've never heard of this. I heard about you do it and then you cool it, and but leaving it in the oven, I don't know what this. I don't know if it's furthered, removing
Well,
the
that's what I
acid.
was going to mention is I don't know without, testing, and looking at studies, but I would imagine that at 220 and slowly dropping even, I would say that you had a higher conversion rate from CBD to CBN. And if you didn't break up your buds, the temperature from the outside of the flower and the inside of the flower maybe could have been a little bit different. So now you
Yeah,
have this ratio of CBN and CBG, which in your system might seem more intense, kind of like, or CBD. So kind of like when you introduce CBG, uh, the amount needed goes down for the
yeah,
desired effect.
yeah. That
So
was so
I don't
interesting
know if
what you guys said
CBN
about
and
that.
CBG play along like that. I
Oh,
would
oh
Like
make
yeah.
sense
amplify
to
each
me.
other. What? So do you have someone locally who's growing this one cultivar for you every year? Is that what's going on?
No, unfortunately, when I was I moved here from Fort Pierce, Florida. I'm in Baton Rouge now, and the one one professional or the wholesale grower quit. So I just used this one cultivar from this California company, Phoenix, and it's real solid. It's well tested.
So they send you the flower from California. Okay,
Yep,
got it.
yep, they
Well,
do.
so I would ask them, or if they don't have it, I'd love to send them some like high CBG hemp compliant stuff to play with. I'd love for you
They
to
might.
try something that has more CBG in it too and see what that does.
I would recommend to you that you contact these people and tell them that I sent you.
Yeah,
Apparently, I
what are
was
they called? Phoenix?
Phoenix, Fenix, and their parent, their co-company is Elevar. I have a topical from them, Elevar, that Phoenix. You go to the tryphoenix.com
Phoenix.
website, and you get their products, both companies' products. But this Dulce Haze, Dolce Haze, that's the one that I use, and it was all about the 22%.
Sorry, this is flour.
Yeah, this is flour. This is hemp
Okay.
flour. Yeah, so it's
Uh,
illegal. It's illegal to. Well, that's what happened out
Hold on.
in Denver. I realized that I could get hemp I could move back to Florida. Florida, I can get hemp in Florida. That can be done, no problem. Yeah, there you go.
This one or which one?
It's Dulce Haze.
Oh, maybe it's not on here right now. Hemp flour. Yeah, I guess they only have two things in stock. Okay, but these guys
Well,
are growing it, and
actually, this is
that's where
just
you're getting.
there's more than just these two. And you see the tags there on the left side in small print. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can hit one of those and get a better variety of the flour. Well, I don't know what the heck. In any case, in any case, I
Okay.
was one of their first customers apparently. So even when you can't get it off their website, I can get it from them.
And
So
have you tried some of their other varietals and
no,
you kind of hone? Okay, all right. Well, so I'd love, yeah, I mean, I'd love to start getting you different flour that is legally shippable across state lines, and have you play with different things and see how it works.
Well, see,
Yeah,
I
like all of Floyd's stuff. Yeah, actually,
not to
Floyd
be
could probably
not to
send
be
flour.
a son of a bitch, but I'm not into that. I got
Okay.
it set. It's all so easy, you know. I
Yeah.
stem it, I destem it, stick in the oven, stick in the butter machine, strain it, bam, it's done.
Well,
And
just to play with just to
Doing the
have,
same thing you're doing now,
yeah,
but with
same
different
thing, just a different
hemp
chemical.
flour.
So you're
Maybe
working
with
with
a
I know what
little
you're
more
CBG
saying.
and CBD.
CBG, a little
I know what you're
like.
saying, but see, it'd probably be smarter to get some because you guys have unique cultivars that you've bred yourselves.
Yeah,
Well, there's a whole
So
community of
there's a whole,
breeders
yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a
yeah,
whole community that
at
does it.
like
yeah.
Phoenix Farms would like work like I bet if I looked, it's like, oh, that's from who are the Oregon guys, Oregon CBD, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
brother. But anyway, that's
Yeah,
where
see,
my
I
mind
got
was
so much
going.
going on that, and it's so convenient, you know. Um, uh, but it's sure great, man. It was terrible. And anybody out there, and you had a guy on last time when I was on the previous one who had, I think he said his joints had started getting eaten up, but he was going to give this a shot because um,
Who is that?
even even if he's gone to the progression of
Someone in
where,
chat.
yeah, yeah, it's where his joints, some of his joints were destroyed. He could still be having serious bad symptoms that could be stopped by hopefully by this stuff. If my what works for me works for him.
Oh, that was one of Mario's buddies.
Miranda.
Miranda. Yeah.
That was a tough story, man. He was in tough shape. He talked about having this type of pain for 8 years, and that's how long
Yeah.
I haven't had the pain. But it's bad, man. It's and you or somebody that you know probably has experienced rheumatoid arthritis and how bad it can get.
Well, that's kind of where, I think a lot of our mindset is, there's so much out there and there's so many different things that people tell you to try. So, having your experience on here, and then, especially with like I didn't know much about CBG until we had a couple episodes with Hoku on.
I just knew it was
And
the parent of the cannabinoids. I didn't know about using CBD itself.
yeah, so
CBG. I
and
mean,
well, and that's kind of where it's like in a case of, oh, we know that CBG on its own in a high dose can accumulate in your liver and create this
oh
enzymatic lockup. If we introduce CBG into it, does it
yeah,
expand the efficacy of the
right.
CBD without having the buildup issue in your liver that you were talking about? You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. You know, Bruce sent me some flour that was 13% CBD, 13% CBG.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had a fibromyalgia flare. And man, I found out that CBG is a muscle relaxant, among other things.
Yeah.
And that the pills they give you, if you take pills for fibro, it's muscle relaxant. Yeah. So I was amazed that there was such a cultivar.
Yeah. Well, and that's so Hoku, I think Peter was he does specific CBG cultivars. So when you're talking about like a 22% CBD,
Yeah.
we can match that with a 22% CBG.
Really?
Pretty close.
That's phenomenal, man. That's phenomenal. You guys are doing great stuff.
I also this is reminding me of a conversation. I don't know if whole what you got's watching, but like we're kind of like you have it's like having a dial of different cultivars that work for you, and maybe each one works for a slightly different issue you have. But then so maybe one that works for like rheumatoid arthritis isn't as good for like gastrointestinal, which you also
Sure.
deal with, or
Oh
pain,
yeah.
or like some other issue. But then if you use one, it's like, what are the adverse effects it has on your other issue or positive, right? And then if it is
Yeah.
adverse, having to like jump to the other cultivar that's really good for that other issue, but maybe has like mild adverse issues for your first issue.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting,
Yeah.
like, but you can go around this dial of like cultivars with specific like chemotypic compositions,
Yeah.
and then like change it to another one and try that and see what, like, that may be good for a different issue you have.
So do you
I
have
don't know.
like a network of people that are willing to try this stuff out?
Well, I think kind of all the people watching and
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's yeah. There are, like, I'll tell you right now, I'm gonna try some of that sunflower stuff for my wife to see.
Does she have arthritis?
She, you know, she just has like a lot of little things that she
Yeah.
notices and nobody can like really figure out. So I'm like, oh,
make
we
it
just need
happen, John.
Yeah.
yeah, we just need a different way to
Well,
balance it
I
out.
sent you, Jeff. I sent you the exact instructions on how to do what I do.
Well,
Did you?
I'm pretty competent in that. Like your process is not, it's not really unique in any way other than maybe your time that you decarb
Yeah.
and the oil you use.
Yeah.
Um, and basically like those ingredients, and which is why probably a lot of our viewers are like, I'm going to make my own sunflower oil because I
I
know
hope
there's
so.
no
I
like
sure hope so.
stabilizers and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, like the decarb process is I would say is pretty standard. Your length of time, which I find with anybody who makes any kind of edible product, has their own time set. So
I never heard of 90 degrees until recently. I mean, excuse me, 90 minutes. I never heard 90 minutes until recently because I was searching that. Is this for real? But there are people that do it, not with THC though, it's CBD only.
Yeah. And I'd like, that's the thing when it comes to stuff like that, is you really do almost have to look at like what's going on in that 90 minutes at the temperature they're at to see really what, like we may think longer than 90 minutes, or 90 minutes essentially becomes like we're just converting more to CBN, because that's really the stack. Like we have CBG and it'll break down either into THC or CBD. And then both of those break down into like their final set that we know of is CBN. So the longer you decarb, the more, like, I think your ratio of CBN to CBD goes up. So if you're working with specific flower that's consistent every time, your process, your timing and temperature are creating, I'm guessing, are creating this ratio of CBD to CBN that's working perfect for you. Which makes me wonder, if we did it with CBG, we would have this ratio of CBG and possibly CBD or THC, which...
Yeah, I didn't know the stack. I just know CBG was the parent. But I did know that if you decarboxylate CBD too long, it turns into something else.
Yeah, and CBN.
Then I really like CBN myself. It really helps with sleep for me. But that's what I thought, man. I thought I ruined it. Oh no, I ruined it. But that's not what happened.
Well, and that's why I'd be excited to have you on with a doc that can explain some of this further, so you know exactly what's going on with what your process is. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you about this scientific paper again. The guy's, I don't know exactly how you say his name, but it's Zgair, Zgair. He was the head scientist in doing this study. And you can look this paper, you can get a hold of this paper. You don't have to pay for it. Some scientific papers you have to pay for.
Sorry, Zygger.
It's Zgair.
Peter's gonna pull it up right now.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Zgair.
Yeah.
Drug delivery. There we go.
Yeah.
Athir is in Ramadi, Iraq.
Wild. Does the title of that paper have immunomodulation in it? That word?
Hold on.
Oh, I see. You were checking the guy. Yeah.
Oh, is that live? No. Yeah, now I'm looking him up. What was the paper about?
It's about using cannabis to treat multiple sclerosis.
That's kind of where you got this whole concept from, correct?
Actually, it confirmed it. I knew something was going on like that, but I didn't know the science involved. In fact, for instance, I didn't know about the intestinal lymphatic system. I never heard of that.
Right, that's what I mean. Like this, the concept of, like, so you'd always been using sunflower oil,
Oh
and this.
no.
Oh, okay. So it was
That's
after you had read this guy's paper that you realized I need to be doing it like this.
yeah,
Got
exactly.
you.
Because, like I say, MCT, that medium chain triglyceride, a
Yeah.
lot of products are made with that. But now it's starting to change. Now some products now have either safflower oil or sunflower oil, and that is the long chain triglyceride that will get into your immune system through the intestine.
Is it oral administration of cannabis with lipids leads to high levels of cannabinoids in the intestinal lymphatic system and prominent
Bingo. You have the word
immunomodulation?
prominent. That's the paper. Yeah, that's the paper. Yeah, somebody that wants some kind of a confirmation that I'm not just full of it, uh, should get a hold of this paper, and they might not understand the complexities of the biochemical relationships, but it is clear that their conclusion, they call it prominent immunomodulation, and that's what I had gotten, boy, and that's how it's been for years now, basically, except for that interruption when I ate too much and didn't do it right. um, I've been in remission since late 2017, and it was severe, man. It was real severe. Yeah.
Are there anybody else quoted in this, like, or cited in this paper aside from that dude?
I don't. There's a whole team that did this, but I
Yeah.
can't remember anybody else's name
So
except at in the credits.
I think my brother-in-law worked on this.
Wow.
They were growing CBD and yeast.
Yeah, wait a second. Isn't your brother-in-law someone who could answer these types of questions? We've been like, if only we knew someone who could jump
Yeah,
on and
getting his schedule open is a pain in the ass. I've been working on it for a while.
Yeah.
nighttime,
Yeah.
Friday night,
Hey, yeah.
But
an excuse to go live.
Hey, I'm a little bit confused about something with you guys. It seems like maybe what is it? The organization, the something project.
Future Cannabis
Yeah,
Project.
Future Cannabis Project. Yeah, are you associated with those guys somehow?
That's us.
A little bit.
Well, the reason I'm asking this is I can't seem to find other podcasts of yours. At the moment, I can't even find Bruce.
We can't either. Yeah, so we've had I'm fighting YouTube right now because we had channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, a mycology channel, all shut down by YouTube, which had like thousands of videos and
So
but you can find, we can send you the link to where you can see these ones, which is on the Quattro channel 4.
Oh yeah, please.
Also known as the last channel standing.
Yeah.
I like you guys' style. You got some humor going, and it's relaxed, but you care. You've got a medical approach, helping people, but also you've got there's some fun involved.
Well, one of the things that I love about what we have going on is it really is like everybody in the comments. It's a community of people who remember when cannabis was really focused on for medical, and you're like a really good example of why we all kind of gather and do what we do, because there's
medical and enjoyment.
Yeah.
There you go.
And there's therapy on both
Therapeutic,
ends.
right?
So for me, it's therapeutic to go through the process. You know, you say it's a lot of work. For me, it keeps me sane. I have to be gardening or doing something, or
Yeah.
else I get caught up in the race, you know.
Uh-huh.
So for me, it's the process and the learning and the engagement, and then the enjoyment of all of that, and this feeling of completion when I'm smoking what I've grown, or
Well,
even
yeah,
smoking something that somebody I taught has grown.
yeah.
It is this very full circle that I don't know how to explain it. It's beyond just like, let's do dabs and talk about like what's hype on the market right now. It
Yeah.
really is like a community that's built. And
Sharon
that's,
and Sharon and I just loved when you leaned back. Oh, my mind is blown. Yeah, I figured
We
we
like to
really had
talk about
something
the
if your mind
cosmos.
was blown, you know, because you guys are pretty dang informed from what I can tell.
I was gonna queue up. Hold on. One of my favorite videos.
yeah. But yeah, FCP Quattro is where it's at on YouTube. I'll kind of send you the page. It's a little weird finding
Excellent.
the videos when you
Yeah.
get there.
Okay. Yeah, I went to them and I couldn't figure out where you guys were. Then I went to what I thought was your channel and I saw mine, but I couldn't find Bruce's.
Yeah, they should all be in like um chronological
Actually,
order.
so what's funny is was that yesterday that we did a show? I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, I
Was it?
wanted to be on.
Oh yeah, no, Tuesday night. Tuesday night. I played two clips of the opening of the Oscars with Conan O'Brien O'Brien with all his makeup on.
That's crazy.
And then way later in the show I played a clip of this really cool farm in Australia that it's basically an entire home and school and chef's kitchen and restaurant and like all and garden in this one super long like huge greenhouse where like the house it's so big that the house is built onto the inside of it and then like
Yeah.
it's cool. Anyway, that video got taken down and I was like, ah, fuck, like the Oscars clips. And then I looked at what got it taken down and it was the clip from a documentary on this cool farm in Australia.
Oh, it was a copyright thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to cut that out and now it's back up. But
That's stupid.
You know, you see these ads on TV
yeah,
for
maybe I'll
pills,
send an
you know?
angry legal letter to YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna reach out to someone I know who works there and be like, do you remember me? Like, we last crossed paths 20 years ago when I was
Right.
back in New York, but I have an issue with YouTube, and I was hoping you could point me in the right direction.
Yeah.
So that's my next on my to-do list of trying to get the channels back.
Well, like I was saying, the side effects they talk about for these pills, I always want to just cuss at the TV, you know, because it's insane. And there's one pill. It was sadness is one of the side effects.
Oh yeah, no, I love hearing like anal leakage, death, like all these like blood out of your eyeballs.
Remember
Yeah.
those
And
commercials in the
usually one
90s
pill
where
is
it was
like
the chick,
solving the
like-
issues caused by another pill, right?
I know. Yeah.
It's
I
like,
read
do
that.
you suffer from the side effects of the first pill you're taking? Well, we have a pill for you.
When I lived in Denver, I went to this geriatric and family care primary. And so I told him I'm in remission from rheumatoid arthritis. And he tells me, well, listen, I would like to test you to see which kind. There's more than one type of arthritis. I'd like to know which one you have. And I said to him, so you can give me the right pill. And he goes, oh yeah, because I already made it clear I never took them and I never would take an immunosuppressive drug.
I mean, it can do wrecked stuff to your body. I see
I
what people
know.
go through. Yeah.
I know. And okay, so what happened was I got this book from this forensic pharmacologist, and what he did was he would go to nursing homes, and you'd have people that were just like vegetables, and they'd have a whole bunch of pills because, like you said, you'd have one pill, and they'd take that, and then they cause a side effect, and you'd have another pill for that, and so he would somehow have the power to challenge the doctors and cut people's the number of pills they were taking. And one that struck out, that really stuck out for me, was he goes to this nursing home. There's this lady sitting in the corner, not doing anything, just there kind of vegging, you know? So he works with her pills, cuts them down from 20 to 4 or something like that. Next thing you know, she's at the card table playing with the other old people and having fun and, you know, being fully there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's big business in that pharmaceutical company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's why, you know, there's a balance between homeopathic and pharmaceutical. I feel like there is a solid use for, you know, certain pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I take a pill for blood pressure.
you know, and it's really interesting because when we talk in the realm of, you know, like we go back to CBG and THC and CBD, how it can, you know, lower the amount needed to reach the desired effect.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like cannabis as a whole does that for a handful of pharmaceuticals. Like the cannabis sometimes can boost the desired effect of the pharmaceutical. Like I've spoke with people who are fighting cancer. One of my friends, actually, their son had a tumor in their brain, like the size of a softball. And the cancer treatment people were literally like, when he's on chemo, and I can't remember which one it was, but when he's on chemo, it was like no CBD. And then when he was receiving radiation, it was like no THC.
Yeah.
So there was this interchangeable formula
Oh,
that allowed
I see what you're
cannabis
saying.
to work with their medical treatment. And the kid's tumor went away. He's been in remission for years now. And
Wow.
I think it's been like 6 years since he's been in remission. So the tumor's not
That's
grown
great.
back. So I think there is there's a combination and teamwork going on. I use it with my epilepsy, you know, and I don't take a handful of shit to keep my stuff controlled.
No. One of Mark the Shark's offload team, Steve, he was having trouble breathing and he couldn't smoke anymore. And so he went to a doc and they said, well, actually, you have stage 4 lung cancer that's metastasized into your brain. So he lucked out and got in a clinical trial for a new immunotherapy. So I don't know what normal chemo he had, but he had that plus Keytruda. In this particular trial, they're using Keytruda as the enhancement to the regular chemo. But so what happened was, in his case, was the immunotherapy stopped the tumors from going in his lung. But then he decided, I'm going to use some Rick Simpson oil. And that started shrinking him. But he couldn't raise that, he couldn't tell the truth about that because that would screw up the results of the trial. So, but it was really remarkable. He was supposed to be dead long before now, and he's still around. He's still around, and he still has
amazing
chemo, but he's doing. Let me see. He's doing Rick Simpson oil and ivermectin. He's trying that too. Yeah.
Actually, who
So
we should bring on. So this guy, Michael Masterman Smith, who I've known for a long time, he was a cancer researcher at UCLA, and his lab discovered that like of the thousands of chemical compounds that they tested on what do you call the cells, like the precursor to the cancer cell. The word will come back. But anyway, cannabis was most affecting at like turning a one to a zero, like killing the I think it's the stem cells, the cancer stem cell. Maybe not, but I think
that
that's the
sounds
word.
right.
No, I'm just wondering if it is a stem cell, but
Yep.
which was
Well,
which was mind blowing because and then so they couldn't, that was with synthetic cannabinoids, and he wanted to test it with real cannabis,
yeah.
and he wasn't allowed to do it, so he actually left this, and this is kind of like tying the medical days to now, like he started a medical company to research this and to make products and formulations for patients, and then when rec happened, he was basically like, I'm gonna be out of business soon because like we're gonna be left behind. Like
Yeah.
anyway, he would be a good person to bring on who could answer a lot of these questions.
Bringing that up, I never can remember her name. There's this scientist lady that came from Spain over here to U.S. and her focus was breast cancer, right? So somebody told her, "Hey, we hear that cannabis can stimulate apoptosis. You guys know what that is, right?" Yeah. So
No.
so so she started getting really into the feasibility of using cannabis to treat, and for her it was same deals. THC was effective, CBD more effective, and so she got recruited back to Spain. Spain came to her and said, "Listen, we're going to give you a lab. We're going to give you a staff. Just come on back." And she did, and so she's been successful in getting moving it forward into acceptance. Where at this point there are German cardiologists that are using CBD to help treat cancer. Yeah, because it stimulates apoptosis. One of the ways you could say cancer happens is the cells forget to die. They don't know how to die, and then they even they get prolific. Sometimes they even create blood vessels to keep them growing.
The
But
type of cancer, that's what's wild. And I've spoke to a few doctors about it. Like the type of cancer that you're dealing with has like the cannabinoids affect differently. Like lymphatic cancer specifically, like I hear THC can actually accelerate its growth. So anything in your
oh,
lymph nodes, any type of lymph nodal cancer, THC is going to have the opposite effect you want from.
wow.
So it's kind of, there's a lot of nuances I feel like when it comes to treating cancer and cannabis use. And I think, again, all these other outside compounds that nobody really talks about, CBN,
Yeah.
CBG, even like the THCA form, it's one of the things that I really appreciate is the non-psychoactive, because that compound is known to help decrease degenerative brain disease. So things like Alzheimer's, dementia, the THCA, whatever it does, but it
I
like
heard that the
dissolves
THC in itself is good. Losing the acid group is what you're shooting for with deep carboxylation. But I also heard undecarboxylated cannabinoids can do good stuff.
Yeah, that's the acid.
Yeah.
When I say THCA,
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about, is the non-decarb version of THC. And it's again non-psychoactive, but it has really good benefits
yeah,
to your brain.
yeah. It's so good that there's more of a chance to uh, get into this type of research and experimentation and helping people. And
Oh,
it's so ironic that it's a Republican guy, Mitch McConnell, that made hemp and anything made from it legal. And he was the like the top guy in the Senate, And so he could determine what bills went to the floor for votes. So he put legalization of cannabis, of CBD and anything made from CBD hemp legal. And he said the farm bill is a big deal. So Republicans fought him on it. They didn't want it to be in there. They said, listen, either it's in there or I'm not going to put the farm bill out to a vote. And that's a big deal. That farm bill covers a lot of stuff.
Yeah, the new thing issued hurts a lot of there's a lot of seed manufacturers out there that are really hurt by it because it's
how come
down a little bit.
Well, why are they hurt by it?
So now with the new way the farm bill is written, if I have cannabis seed that their parents contained the higher above percentage of allowed THC value, those seeds are considered illegal now.
Yeah.
So
it sucks.
People who grow their own,
yes, it does.
It's going to be a lot harder for them to be able to get access to repetitive genetics.
Man, that sucks badly.
Yeah. It really does suck. And it, from what I understand, is McConnell was tipped a few $100 million or something like that from big alcohol to push that through.
Well, his what I know about is Kentucky tobacco farmers that wanted to stop growing tobacco, and wanted to grow hemp. Something.
I know.
Yeah,
You gotta be careful. We don't want this.
And then it became the tulip collapse.
Yeah.
You guys, I don't understand YouTube and the way you.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, they. I don't get it. Why they take certain stuff off. But I'm glad you guys are still on.
We're not afraid to scratch the surface on certain topics, and YouTube catches on, I think.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm done with my blab for the moment. But
we appreciate it. Yeah. So I reached out to a couple doctors and scientists, and now I'm trying to remember who I did. Oh, Dell, Michael Masterman Smith, and Gene Talleyrand. So we'll see. But we'll see if maybe next Friday those guys could come on.
Yeah.
And then everybody can remember all the questions we had for them, because I'm definitely not going to remember. So that's everybody's homework between now and whenever that happens, is to remember the good questions that we had that we did not know the answers to.
Yeah. And I'll be in touch, Kelly. We can, if this Friday doesn't work, we can put something together.
Okay. Good deal.
Cool.
I'm glad you guys are doing this.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
We are too. And thanks for jumping on. And come on again when we get the scientists.
Right on. That'd be good.
Right.
That'd be real good.
You can be asking all the questions.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
All right, everyone, have a good one.
All right, guys. Bye.